Oh my goodness. Welcome back, everybody. It is Andy Christopher here, aka the DILF, the dad I listen to frequently. And we welcomed baby girl Alina Kathleen Christopher into the world just 6 days ago. So forgive me on this one. It's going to be a little bit short, but definitely very sweet. And, we're going to move on to the, you know, all the things that having two children entails and the weekly insight and look into that in the coming weeks. But man, right now we're just so grateful. There's so much chaos and there's so much uncertainty, not only in the world, but as you're going into having your second child, you get hit with a lot of different feelings and a lot of different emotions as it's approaching. And you plan, you prepare, you read, you communicate with your partner, and you do everything you can to set yourself up for success when that moment comes. But if if you're just about to have your first child, when you see your child being born, it's like an epiphany of awesomeness. Like, how did I survive and what was I doing before this moment? We talked about how all the parenting cliches are pretty true, but that moment of seeing your child come out is something else. And I can't wait for you, if you so choose, to experience it for yourself on one side or the other. Obviously, we look at it here from the dad's perspective, and as we do everything we can to comfort our partners and significant others, make them feel good and beautiful and taken care of in this situation, we obviously don't know the physical pain and the emotional kind of stressors that they're undergoing as they're going into this, but that release and that just jovial nature and tears being shed, I can't wait for you to experience it if that's the path that you choose with your partner. So Alina came in and she was full term, opposed to Arlo, who was 5 weeks early. And we, we'd gone back and forth in terms of just like Julia always joked, like, oh, I don't really want to have a girl because, I know what a what a bitch I was when I was in my teens, and I don't want to have to go through that. Plus, as soon as that baby girl is born, it's going to be you and her versus me forever. And that's when we were talking about having our first kid. And you know, while we felt prepared, we now that she's here, it's like, of course you're here. We had to have you. You are amazing and incredible. And it's only been a week. Oh my gosh. But it has been a week. And man, we're going through it. She's been sleeping like a champ and she's been nursing very well, all things considered. If you haven't never set up an appointment with a lactation specialist, I highly, highly recommend it, because every time we come out of those appointments, we take away something new that is extremely useful and very much relevant to the moment at hand. So highly recommend that. But she's here, she's healthy, mom's recovering. Julia was on last week's episode. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it was incredible. And everyone's doing well. But obviously the biggest hurdle that we were all anticipating was, how is Arlo going to react to being a big brother, to having this entity in the play, in the fold. And he has been so excellent. Don't get me wrong. He's lashed out at us, at myself and Julia, plenty of times. Our grandparents are here too, and he's pushing his boundaries. He's testing limits. He's doing all that good stuff. I think that just is part of being a toddler. But he's at his core such a sweet child that watching him interact with Alina has it makes everything worthwhile. No matter how little you've slept, no matter, what you need to get done that day, it's just so worth it. And as I mentioned previously, we prepared him for this. It's been a couple months in the making, but when it's actually here, we obviously had no idea. We brought Arlo into the hospital to meet baby girl, Alina, the first and the second day that she was alive. And he was a little bit standoffish at first, but by the end of the first session, he was petting her on the head, almost like a dog. And he was running around saying, "I'm a big brother, I'm a big brother." And it doesn't sound that, I don't know, monumental, but Julia and I were both just tearing up at how wonderful this was. And the second day, he's calling her sissy, and he's not afraid to be near her, and he's asking mom how she's doing and how he can take care of her. He's like, "Oh no," when Alina's crying, and he's just being so sweet. But the capper moment in the past week, by far, we were putting Arlo down for his nap, and we were all reading books together, including Alina. And I was taking her out of the room and saying, "Arlo, have a good nap." And it's been custom as we've been walking out for him to ask for a hug and a kiss, say hug, kiss, hug, kiss. And so I stop and I bend down and I go to give him a hug. And he says, "No, sissy, not daddy." And Julia and I just both looked at each other like, "Oh my gosh, if this happens, this will send us over the emotional edge." And so I kind of expose her shoulder a little bit, and she's been sleeping all the time, so she's not really aware of what's happening. But Arlo's trying to weave his way in there, and he's not like giving her a kiss on the shoulder. I'm like, "Wait a minute." So I turn her full face to him, and he goes in and kisses her right on the lips and says, "Bye, sissy." And Joy and I were done. Absolutely, with the force and heat of 1,000 suns, melted into the ground forever and ever. We could have easily had that be the last moment in our lives and lived a tremendous life. And that sweetness is so wonderful. And we know that there's going to be further growing pains, but right now everyone's in a good vibe. Everyone's in a good spot. And we're remembering all the things about having a newborn. It is truly like riding a bike. If you are nervous about having that second kid, or you feel underprepared, don't feel it. Everything just kicks back in, from the different kind of poop schedule to the how gentle you have to be when cleaning stuff off their body, to I gotta burp them and bounce them all the time. When you've got a toddler, you forget about all this stuff. And it's it's just been so wonderful to see our family grow, see how everything's starting to take shape for the future. And as I mentioned, we've got our grandparents here, and it's night and day compared to when COVID happened, because we couldn't really have anyone visit. And when we did, we were already kind of in a groove, and it was very discordant. But another thing that I've taken away is that grandparents are so grateful to be part of that experience. And everyone has been wanting to come out and wanting to help. And part of it is, I think, that everyone's excited that there's finally a girl in the family again. There's been a run of boys, and it's just been boy, 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 boy. But having that support has made our lives so much easier, and just feeling loved and feeling taken care of helps us stay calm and not exude that stress and frustration to our children. So that has been something that we've been so grateful for every single night. And no, we haven't been sleeping great or sleeping a ton, but Julia had her, we got some Mexican food today, and we've been having home cooked dinners, and um, we've been talking about when we're gonna go. Excuse me, had a little tick on my throat. When we're gonna go, grab happy hour, and we've got some things happening in, my own career, and we're doing this trivia night thing, and everything's just kind of taking shape for the family, and it's just so fun to realize and remember and be reminded that the reward is the journey. If we constantly set goals for ourselves and we're just always worried about hitting that next goal and getting that next metric or check in the bank or whatever is your benchmark for success completed, you forget that all the stuff that's happening on the day to day and in these moments, and the love and the happiness and the sadness and the frustrations and the learning and the evolving, that shit's the reward. That's the good stuff right there. And I'm just taking it all in right now. I'm more rested than I expected to be. But, fitness and wellness and all that stuff, it can wait for the time being. I'm doing my best to stay patient with that. Trying to pepper in a ride here, like a bike ride here and there whenever I can, but just taking it all in and watching grandparents interact with little man and baby girl, and watching Julia be so brave and patient and just incredible, and how she's treating Alina and still taking care of Arlo, and it just feels like it's all clicking. And what I would say is your preparation for baby number 2 and your preparation for becoming parents is how you will be able to, look in the moment or look back as to whether or not that was successful or that was good or bad, or, however you want to look at it. But just talk, prepare, and be ready to be flexible when the moment actually comes, and be ready to be there for your partner. We're all tired right now. And when you hear the little one screaming and it's 3 a.m. again and nobody wants to get out of bed, it's just like, hey, let's take that first step. And then all of a sudden she's on your chest, and we like to joke that she makes these snoot sounds. The little baby sounds are the cutest things ever. They're little snoots. And as long as you're there for each other, you'll figure a way through that moment, through those hours, and into, the light, or into the next moment when you can be drinking your coffee together and enjoying everything together. But if you just take that first step and really assert yourself to take charge when everyone's tired and everyone's exhausted, it just makes things that much easier. And that's dad or mom. I mean, that's kind of anyone in this moment. It just tends to fall on the mother a lot more frequently, because they're the ones nursing. They're the ones whose bodies are going through these enormous swings and emotions and changes, and in, weight, and in all these different hormones and chemical imbalances and rebalancing. And, as the dad, we're still just kind of us. And now we have this new emotional factor and this new presence in our lives that we're acclimating to, but it's nowhere near what the mom's going through. So dads out there, take the step, be brave yourself, and be as present as you possibly can in those first few days. And you will never, ever regret being that type of dad, in my opinion. So it's late. I'll have a lot more to share. I have a lot of thoughts on what's been transpiring and what's been happening, but I wanted to share that wonderful Arlo story and moment with Alina, share that everyone's doing well. And that's, you know, we're just pressing on kind of hour by hour and day by day at this point. So if you have anything to share, please feel free to, you know, reach out on our socials. We've got the dilfshow@gmail.com that you can always send emails to. Always listening, always reading those. And go out and make someone feel happy today. Make someone feel important, and it will be a day well spent. Whether it's your family, your friends, someone you haven't talked to in a while, or a complete stranger, just go make someone feel good. Okay. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.